What's up, YouTube? Following along with finishing up my Hellboy cosplay, today we are going to be making a tail. Okay, so for the tail, I have 18-inch long pieces of foam, so I had to split it into two pieces. The patterns are chopped up into pieces, so you can tape them together however. And they're up for free on Facebook because I did not have time to refine them, so you may have to play with them or do some adjustments. I've never done this before, so this is totally new. So I've already taken these two, and I've heated them with my heat gun and shaped them, and used contact cement to glue them together here. So I will, like I say, unfortunately have a seam because my foam isn't long enough to just do the whole tail. But yeah, you can see once you heat and curve this, you're essentially making one half of the tail. And I'm going to go ahead and heat this one too and glue it together and make the other half of the tail. Okay, so I have applied contact cement to both sides. However, I just started by gluing the back here. Whenever you apply the contact cement, you put it on each surface to be bonded. So I brushed it on both sides of this. And then I joined, like I say, the back side. It was really tricky, but it was much easier to join the back side. You see how the front just naturally wants to open up. The other thing is, since the back side is going to be on the top of the tail and the part that everybody's going to see, I want to make sure that's as even as possible. But before I join together this part here to this other part here to complete the basic tail shape, I'm going to take some super glue here, and I'm just going to run a bead of it along the inside of this seam that I've already joined, just to make sure it's stuck there a little bit better. Once you apply the contact cement, you have up to an hour from the point that you brushed it on to join the two sides together. So I was brave and just did all of them at once. Okay, so I did manage to get both sides pressed together. As you can see here on the bottom, I'm going to have to do a decent amount of sanding because I didn't get it lined up quite as good as the top, although the top needs some sanding too. But yeah, it is together, and particularly here on this underside, you'll notice the shiny spot here. That's because, much like I did on the inside of the top, I took my super glue and just ran a bead along the seam. It really wants to pull apart, like I'm really forcing the foam to do stuff it doesn't want to do. I mean, I guess anytime you heat and shape foam, you're forcing it to do things that the foam doesn't want to do, but this particularly so, I would say even more so. Okay, so I got it sanded and smoothed out with the dremel to help with some of my uneven seams and such, so it does look a lot better. And I've also gone ahead and cut out my mounting plate for the tail, and I cut this out of 1/2 inch thick foam, and I put a couple straps on here. I initially super glued them, just kind of hot glued over, make sure they don't come off. This is for my belt to go through. The belt's going to go over the outside of it to make sure it pulls it nice and tight to my body. And I already traced around where I want the tail to go. But before going any further, you may want to consider, if you're building along at home, to using some expanding foam or something sprayed inside of here to help fill this up. You can pick that stuff up at most hardware stores. So I did not have any expanding foam, and I wasn't going to go buy any, so I improvised by using some packing foam. And I had this just lying around from everything from cell phone purchases to microwaves to people donating it to me or just having things shipped. And I just kind of chopped it up and shoved it in there with the largest piece, or not the largest, the smallest piece here, kind of clogging it up here, and just filled it up. I was mostly worried about this section. Down here it's smaller enough around and the foam's thick enough. I feel like it should support itself just fine, especially once I plasted it and everything. But up here I was a little worried about the weight versus the thickness of the foam, so I feel much more confident now that I have this joint here packed. And I'm going to take a scrap piece of EVA foam that I traced around my tail, and I'm going to glue that inside of there so that I have a nice flush surface to glue this to my mounting plate. Okay, so I drew a line where the middle was, got this lined up, contact cemented it on, and then I used some hot glue to go around the base here. But it does still pull very much this way and causes both the tail to sag a little bit here, but mostly it's putting stress on this foam plate, which I was kind of worried that I might have to do a little reinforcing, but it's not much flex now. So to avoid that later, I have taken a rectangular piece of foam and folded it and heated it along the seam and then curved it on the bottom here so it will match up to the tail. And I've just applied, you can see it's all wet, my contact cement to that. I'm going to put that on and then hot glue around it to give it a little bit more strength and stability. Alright, now I'm going to begin to plasti dip my creation. So I did about 4 coats total, 4 or 5. Basically a whole entire can of plasti dip to get this to a point that I was happy with it. And now that that is done, I'm going to go ahead and airbrush it. And much like all the other Hellboy stuff, if you've seen those videos, I'm going to use a mixture of 2 parts opaque red from Createx and 2 parts deep red, transparent, also from Createx. And I thin that out with distilled water, pretty much just to the consistency that I like. So things like that are, of course, personal preference and up to you. Okay, so that pretty much wraps it up for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And if you want to take a crack at your own, the patterns, like I say, are up on Facebook. Let's go and check that out. And good luck with your builds. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and leave a like. And as always, thanks for watching.